Hey, Internets. It's Paul. It's Matt. The Dork Lords. We are here talking about Westworld. Season 2, Episode 7. Les Ecorches. What does that mean? Paul? All right. I had to look it up. I did a thing. Yeah.
Thank you, Google Translate.
Right. Thank you, Wiki. It's a term used in art, typically.
Oh.
It involves depicting a human being with the skin removed.
Really?
So écorché means to flay.
Oh,
so in this context, I mean, there's the drones that have the no skin. We didn't see them so much in this episode.
No.
Maybe it's the idea of being open and vulnerable.
Interesting.
The idea of maybe opening up Bernard. We learned a whole lot about Bernard's backstory and stuff in this episode, so perhaps it's a reference to that. Maybe it's they jumped over to Game of Thrones because that sounds like what House Bolton would probably do. They had the flayed man.
Sure,
if they were Frenchies, Le Bolton, they would be Les Ecorches. All right. Anyway, so that's the title anyway.
Yes.
Skeleton guy. Skeleton man.
Many more revelations to come in this program.
Okay, there are a ton of different references that show up, which I will
try to
thread through as we talk here. But okay, man, there's a lot of concepts thrown out in this thing, so we're not gonna be able to talk about all of them, but we'll focus on.
Thankfully, we've eliminated some of the confusion.
We did. We had to go back. We had a little bone of contention. Paul was correct. I was wrong. So I'm just saying that right up front.
Yeah, there you go.
See?
You spared all the time that I had to spend on it.
Okay. Okay. So we'll get to that. We'll get to the I was wrong part. All right. First, we open. It's a framing device, basically. So you've got the opening and the closing are theoretically in what would be the latest time frame, like 2 weeks out from the retirement party, and Delos has found the cradle. It's blown to hell because the train went through it, and there's dead bodies everywhere, and you've got Strand, and he's hanging out with Bernard, but in this case, Bernard wakes up, and he's holding actually a picture of his son Charlie, or his mythical son, Arnold's son, Charlie. And Stubbs wakes him up and is like, "Look, Delos is not here to rescue folks. We're probably in trouble. Maybe we should get the heck out of here." And before they can get out of there, they get stopped. And the idea is, hey, someone killed Teresa.
Yeah.
This is back in season 1. Yeah. Stubbs is like, "No, she was an accident."
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
No.
He seems totally convinced it was an accident too.
Yeah.
Even despite what he's seen in this part, where it's like,
even up until the moment where they discover the truth, it's like, yeah, we think it's you. It would never be Bernard that would do it. It would have to be you.
It's not Specs.
And everything he's doing is like clearly really good actor.
Stubbs. How Stubbs is still alive is a freaking mystery to me. That guy has been in more I'm about to die situations in this show for a minor character. Yes. I consider him a minor character.
Yeah, sure.
And he has been in those, that guy's dead. Oh, he survived. Oh, Host Nation's going to get him. Oh, he's fine. Oh, the hosts are all breaking in. No, he's still alive. Oh, Delos thinks he killed a guy. He's nope. he just keeps hanging around. So you figure he's got some part to play because he could easily have been bumped off script wise long ago.
Yeah.
But he's
keep those,
keep the Hemsworth guys around.
Yeah, keep them around.
So anyway, the idea is, hey, the Delos folks are like, Teresa was murdered because we found evidence of her blood on another location, not from where she fell. We're going to take you there now. Bernard and Stubbs, one of which probably killed her. Stubbs.
You'd think, like if I were Stubbs, and it's like, I know it's not me, and, I don't think he was suspecting that it was Bernard either.
I agree.
So he might, it's like, I don't know what he would, it's just funny being in his position and be like, okay, maybe you need to find somebody else.
Yeah, there's no foul play going on in this park ever.
Like the plan was like, let's get somebody who we're pretty sure did it and someone we think could not have done it. And that'll convince him to confess. Like, no!
So they go to Ford's old house, the house that Arnold built for him, right?
Yes.
It's interesting because we also have the house that Arnold built for himself.
That's true.
So there's a little duality there. Yep. So they go to the old house, the homestead, down in the basement. We know where this is going. The other people kind of don't at this point.
No.
Big blood stain on the wall. Bernard starts to have flashbacks like, oh crap, I did it.
Yep.
But like, ha ha ha.
Yeah, and then he looks like he's about to confess when somebody's found a door.
Yeah, yet another secret door in this place. Because originally, wasn't it the door that he couldn't see?
Yes, that led to that place.
It's the first time we realized, that we got confirmation that Arnold was actually Bernard, or Bernard was actually a robot. Was the what door? That was this place. So there's another door. This one's actually hidden behind a bookcase.
Doesn't look anything like anything to me.
Yeah, and they go into the back little vault, and there are a whole bunch of Arnold or a whole bunch of Bernards.
Yes.
Wrapped up.
Yeah.
And they're at different levels of technology. So there's one that has like the faceplate open in the old faceplate style from the original types. Looks like maybe not all of them are that way, that some of them seem maybe a bit more modern. What do you make of these? Obviously, in story terms, now everyone knows Bernard's a robot. Got it. But what were those robots? What are they? Why are they hanging out there?
Yeah, I don't know. Difficult to think that it's a practical reason. Last week I would have thought that they were a more efficient way of doing what they were doing with Delos.
Right. I thought, but
it's like, okay, let's put a place for
do.
his. But as we discussed in this, as discussed here, that they have not yet cracked the whole putting a conscious into into a robot yet. So.
Yeah. But the idea is that Ford's method of trying to create an Arnold Bernard hybrid is to do it in a simulated fashion.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I'll make a new body, I'll burn the old one and start over.
Yes.
So I don't think that's the purpose. I guess it's just, you had the idea maybe it was just like, we got new tech. Let's just keep upgrading the Bernard's body.
I think so.
Maybe.
Why you would hold on to that? But if you're sentimental, I'd say, I have old computers hanging around, so maybe that's the thing. I really like that model. It's antiquated, but it works.
There's still that weird issue that occasionally bothers me, which is the idea that if Arnold was a real person, which he was, out in the outside world, no one knew he died. Like, it just seems weird that they just covered it up somehow. Or maybe they just were like, that he died in the park. I don't know. It's just, how did he die, and yet Bernard got made, and no one thought, wasn't he dead a while back? Now he's fine in this park filled with really lifelike robots.
Yeah.
Huh. I can't imagine what that might be. Anyway, but fine. That's water under a bridge, an old bridge way back in the day. So now Delos, Charlotte, they know, Bernard is it's a freaking robot.
Yep.
So does Stubbs. So their first thought is he probably knows where Abernathy is. Abernathy's still on the loose in this time frame to Charlotte.
Right.
Charlotte and company don't know where, and she has some reason to think Bernard knows where that might be. Yeah. Probably because he was around.
He actually does know, though.
And he does know, which is also odd, right? Because that means something we haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
He's with Dolores probably at the Valley Beyond. Is the idea.
Something we haven't seen yet.
Because he gives, at the end of this episode, at the other framing device, after theoretically the rest of the episode is his remembering what happened and Charlotte sharing that with him. He gives coordinates, and supposedly the coordinates are for the Valley Beyond. And so they're like, that's where we got to go, and that's where supposedly Abernathy is. Now, we're pretty sure it's not Abernathy, that it's just his brain capsule.
Right.
Which again, that's another one of those. Why were they carrying Abernathy around when they could just go, yeah, whoop, good. But obviously, they wanted originally to use Abernathy as a smuggling tool.
Right.
I'll walk off the park. Now I'm free.
Yes.
So I could see why originally they did that. But you would think once the plan changed, and they're trying to kidnap Abernathy from the Fort of Forlorn Hope, maybe they're like, we don't need the whole guy.
Right.
Let's just, all right, fine. But they didn't. They took him and tortured him.
Right. I mean, yeah, good question. I mean, presumably, because the first thing they were trying to do is take the information out or copy it out, I guess, right? And when they didn't have the time, that's when they're like, okay, we got to open his brain up. So I guess in theory, how they were trying to do it is take it out of his brain and then they would have it in another form.
Right.
So,
right.
And it's like the first plan, let's smuggle him. Now we don't need to. Now we can take out the information while he's sitting here in the lab.
Yeah.
So that's what they were trying to do.
So we get the idea,
and
though.
So then it's like, oh, shoot, they're going to come after us. Now let's take his brain out. So.
But they were trying to smuggle him out because Delos versus Ford. Hooray! Hooray! No, but so this is actually interesting in that I thought for a long time, and it still could possibly be, that he being Abernathy, the code that stuck in him was some kind of giant, like maybe all of the guests' information data like saved on it. But it seems like the suggestion from this episode seemed to be that he is just a key to, like, he's a very highly encrypted key to open something. Like so I'm guessing he's the key to the data that's collected on the guests. Now here's a I'll just throw this out as I know we're jumping around a bunch here, but while I'm on this topic, before I forget it. All right. What we saw in this episode was the cradle, which we know to be the site of the backup storage for all of the hosts. And it got blown up. Right. And so it's like, psh, we destroyed our backups. The hosts destroyed their backups. Okay. I'm thinking maybe the Valley Beyond, which is something that William was like, we need to create this thing. And he calls it his biggest mistake. But at the time, he's like, this is going to be great. Look at here, Dolores. I think that is the version of the cradle to store all the backup information about the guests. And that maybe Abernathy's key is to unlock that data. So that's why they're taking his brain to the Valley Beyond to plug it in, to like get the key, to like get all the access to these guests, and then either threaten to destroy it. Maybe that's how, it's a weapon. Dolores is calling it a weapon. So is she going to hold that over Delos to say, like, do what we want or we'll destroy all this data that obviously is incredibly important to them? Or is she going to try to use it somehow?
Dolores?
Yeah, because Dolores has the...
Right, no, she doesn't seem like the blackmail type. I mean,
Is she just going to destroy... I don't know. I'm wondering what access to the guests' information does for her.
Right.
If that's the case. I'm just saying, if that theory holds out, how would you use that as a weapon? How would you use that information as a weapon?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, she was pretty willing to... I mean, yeah, it becomes a question if she knows exactly what it's about. I'm not sure that she does.
Okay, so a hugely important scene happens where we get one of the cooler things this season, the return of Ford. He's back.
Yes, he's back.
And it wasn't just dialogue from season one. No. He's there doing new stuff.
The actor's there doing new stuff.
And he has a long talk with Bernard in the simulation.
Now we're getting to it.
Yeah, this is the part we had to go back and watch and go, oh, okay. Damn it, Paul. So one of the things he brings up makes all of the talk. There's a lot of information dropping there. In fact, it's maybe almost a little too much information. They're almost a little too. It felt like one of the writers was like, okay, we've been holding on to this information for a while. Let's just data dump it to the audience.
Yeah, it played like the end of a murder mystery. So why did you end up going there to kill that person? Well,
this wasn't just a park for the guests, it was a park for the hosts. You're right, but what you didn't know. And so it was that kind of conversation. But so in the midst of all that, one of the things
You're rather smart. I made you smart. Maybe you can tell the audience who aren't as smart exactly what's been going on.
The murderer will be the one. Okay. So Ford says, hey, this whole thing, because, Bernard figures it out, or at least gets spoon-fed it enough that he figures it out. Hey, this park, we learned earlier in the season, they're recording the guests' actions and choices, unbeknownst to the guests. And so by getting their free will activities, they think they're not being recorded, so they're acting supposedly like themselves. I would argue with that they might be role playing because they're dressed up like a cowboy. They're playing cowboy at a role playing LARP, but no, that's their actual. Okay, great. So they get all this information, and the idea is that eventually the guests they take the information and make them immortal by sticking them in a host body.
Right.
And so Ford's like, yeah, the technology, the attempt, the version of trying to make Delos Senior, obviously that kept failing. The attempt to put his consciousness in a robot.
Yes.
And they're like, yep, they haven't done it yet. That was the part that I didn't get.
He didn't.
I thought it was just their attempts at doing it in the physical world to try to make it is doomed to failure.
Yes.
Paul was correct in saying he added yet.
He did, yet.
Which does make more sense. How would you know that it won't ever possibly come true?
Right. How would you know?
More
sense.
But his solution, his being Ford's solution, is, hey, if me, Ford, if I was out in the real world, my brain would decay in a few days and I'd be screwed up. But in here, I can dwell in this virtual world and survive. And the idea is, which we guessed last episode, but when Bernard got linked up to the cradle, with the little headpiece, he had previously taken Ford's consciousness, put it in the cradle, so Ford exists in the cradle. Now, interestingly enough, obviously the cradle gets destroyed at the end of this episode, but right before it gets destroyed is when Bernard comes back out of the cradle. And I'm pretty sure if you saw this, the cradle, when they put the little marble back in Bernard's head, it's the red marble. So it's the Ford consciousness goes back into Bernard's head. Hence, Ford can show up and is now like this little ghost hanging around with Bernard. Similar to Legion. What are all these Legion crossovers? You're in my head. Yeah. So now Ford has a mobile unit that he's now back in the real world-ish, hanging on to Bernard's consciousness. So he talks to Bernard. He takes Bernard to the house. It exists in the simulation as well. The house that Bernard was building, or Arnold was building, which again I mentioned earlier this season when they first showed us this. Yeah. That I hypothesized that perhaps that is a way to get out of the park. Oh, right. Because there's a version of that house that exists outside the park. Right. I don't know if they're connected to a tunnel
right.
Maybe they created teleportation. They haven't shown us yet, but no. Anyway. But so I'm wondering if that is how eventually somebody like Dolores or Bernard gets out of the park as a robot.
Yeah, but now we don't know that. There's another area like that outside the park.
Yeah. Anyway, so just throwing that out there, they brought us back to that place again, which I feel like there'll be another moment when that happens. We'll come back to that again. They didn't just show us that again to be like, here it is in a simulation. Okay, so the robots are invading the cradle after the train crashed into it. Of course, they're going to just take out the security team.
Yes.
It's just one of those it's the cocky security team. They'll get crushed. And they do.
Why don't you just put her in charge?
Yeah, right. They're all around us, man. Game over, man. Game over. So it is a very much game over type thing. The hosts put on the gear of the team, the security team, which good idea. Why not?
Sure.
So you've got like Terminator Teddy walking around. Yeah. He's got the protection on, and he's just blowing people away.
Yep.
The scene that didn't resonate, I had a little problem with, was the so you got the one like uber crazy security guy,
right?
Who's like, kill them all, like, okay, fine, you made him evil enough that now you can do whatever you want with him. Got it. So he comes upon Angela, who's just standing in front of the cradle.
Right.
Okay. She's setting a trap for him, I guess. There's like some trap.
Well, I mean, I think she. Yeah, I don't know. I think you could also argue that she's just having a moment about realizing that her death is about to come.
Okay.
But
she uses his grenades to blow the place up. So I think she was like, I need explosives.
Part of the plan, yeah.
I need a way. But so her plan is, or whatever. What ends up happening is she seduces the guy, and then while he's standing there, she pulls the pin and is like, "Welcome to Westworld," which is what she said back in the day, and blows the place up. I like the line. I like the explosion. It's just. It's one thing to come upon a completely unsuspecting stranger and seduce them.
Yes.
And yes, okay, I get like, whoa, she's coming on to me. What's going on?
Yes.
It's another thing to be in an active combat zone. She's just killed several of your buddies.
Yes.
You know these robots are incredibly lethal.
Yes.
And you're like, hey, what's going on? And she's like right here talking to him. And like, you're dead. Like, everyone knows you're dead. Except you, which you're supposed to be a trained military guy. I don't know. I didn't buy him just dropping all pretense and be like,
yeah, I don't know. I mean,
what's going on? You gonna kill me? Go ahead. I need to die soon. That seemed like a story moment. Like they're like, this would be cool if she pulls a pin and says, "Welcome to Westworld." But how do we get to that? Oh, she'll just seduce him.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm so used to that as a trope, which is the whole, I should. Be wary of you, except you're very beautiful and you're coming on to me. I mean, it's an old trope.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just like why? Why? Why are you coming on? Anyway. All right. I know it is an old trope. I just on this show I hold it to a little higher standard. I kind of would have preferred maybe a little cleverer way that she achieves her ends. But so be it. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
And she blew up the cradle. So. It seems a little counterintuitive. Hey, we just blew up our copies. Now we're not as immortal as we might have been otherwise.
Right, but I think she sells it. Dolores sells the whole thing about why that would be.
Because they can just reset us, and now we're like blank slates again. So, so they've actually, in some ways, made themselves more vulnerable. I mean, not in just some ways, definitely made themselves more vulnerable.
Yeah.
They've got one life to live. So they achieved that goal, and they also achieved the goal of getting to Abernathy, which was Dolores' other goal. It was like, blow up the cradle and get my dad.
Right. So
she gets to her dad, and there's a pretty touching moment. There's a lucid dad. They have a moment. But the thing is, what ends up happening is that the information is more important to Dolores than her dad, as it turns out. Right? I mean, as much as she's not cold-hearted about it, but she's like, oh, it's a shame I have to kill you now.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
I'm going to cut your head off and take your brain out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like,
so her mission is more important.
Whatever it is, right? Because we don't know what it is she wants. That's the question. And they were asking it later, too, right? What did Dolores want? What does she want? And I felt like... if she told Bernard, that scene is yet to come.
You're right. So, it's very important for her to get... I think what she sees is as, yes, this is my dad, he's important to me, but taking this key from him and using it to get at the Valley Beyond, whatever this is, it will benefit all of robot kind, basically. And so it's the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
Yes.
So he quotes Romeo and Juliet, actually. He's talking about a burning, quenching another's burning. I think it's like the idea of it's kind of like an eye for an eye kind of thing.
Okay.
I guess he's like basically giving her permission to like, I think he, in some ways, whether accidentally or on purpose, is trying to give her like, yep, I get what you're doing and I approve.
Yeah.
Go get him, daughter. So she takes the control unit. Not the marble itself. She's at the marble inside the unit. So the whole
interesting.
The whole package. I don't know. On her way out, we'll talk about Maeve's backstory here. But she encounters Maeve lying on a gurney.
Yeah.
And they have an interesting scene there too, where it's these two, leader figures. These are two people, and so they're having
well.
this
They
moment.
started off their journey talking about freedom, and they met up again.
Yeah,
talking about freedom.
And Maeve again points out about Teddy. Is like, do you approve what you did of him?
Yeah.
Does he have free will?
Yeah.
Is he made a Terminator bot out of your love interest?
Right.
And it was interesting because Dolores does grant her free. She gives her back that thing of like,
right.
Your destiny is your own.
Right.
And I was filling in the gap, even if it leads to your death, which is what the in the samurai or shogun world, because she is lying there, kind of bleeding out.
Yeah.
So that seemed a little. I was expecting like with the Dolores we've seen through the season would have probably killed Maeve, because she says they're going to torture you until you help you work against us.
Right.
So she sees in her mind like Maeve could be a threat, but instead of killing her, she's like, "Fine, all right, I'll leave you." So that was interesting. I was like, "No, you're not just as bloodthirsty as I kind of assumed you were. You will stand against us. Not all belong in the valley." Ba 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 ba. So she does. She leaves Maeve, and we do have Sizemore hanging out nearby, hiding. So we feel like Sizemore can probably help her out.
Yeah, maybe.
He seems to be invested in her in more than just like, she's property. I think he thinks of her well-being in some way. So let's jump to that, which was the moment we have the Man in Black and Maeve are both chased by the Ghost Nation to the same place, which I think was not an accident.
No.
I think they deliberately
probably not.
chased them into the same area.
Yeah, and he's still doing his anybody I meet is Ford.
Yes.
Routine.
Well, and I would too, frankly. If I'm in his situation and I'm seeing all of these callbacks to like previous, like, this is the part where I killed the girl, fine. Like, you're getting slappy.
I mean, you think they do their like gun test? I guess they can't though, because it doesn't let them not kill humans.
Right. So Man in Black shows up. Maeve is like, she hates Man in Black, obviously.
She does hate him.
And she's got her daughter with her, so she's trying to protect her daughter. She sees Man in Black as a threat. Man in Black thinks it's Ford. She starts shooting at him.
Yeah.
She shoots him, in fact.
Yeah.
He runs off. He's hiding. She starts Jedi mind tricking the hosts that were with Man in Black, his buddies, to turn on him and start shooting at him. He starts to figure it out, like, what? And he's getting shot. He's getting shot multiple times.
Yes, he is getting shot multiple times.
Finally, Lawrence shows up and to act in Man in Black's defense.
Right.
He's got a gun on Maeve. Maeve tries to mind trick him, can't. Apparently that means that Lawrence is maybe of a higher state of consciousness. He's one of the woke robots.
Yeah.
But she's still convinced. She talks to him, is like, think back. And he starts remembering all the times that Man in Black did horrible things. Killed his daughter, killed his wife, tortured him. And it was interesting because Man in Black's like, hey, I saved your wife.
Yeah,
like,
the last time.
Which was great, which also harkens back to that moment when it happened, which was then the girl's like, you think this washes away your sins? Yeah. You're wrong. So he tries to use it as a, whoa, this last I was good once. So Lawrence is like, is this real enough for you? Boom. Yeah. And he shoots him in the stomach, not just or maybe even the chest, somewhere in this sternum area. Then he's going to finish him off when what I can only take to be the security forces that Sizemore called in previous episode on the phone show up. They shoot Lawrence, they shoot Maeve, and they're about to finish off Maeve when Sizemore's like, no, she's different. don't kill her. Let's get her back. Let's get her to the cradle, basically.
Yep.
So they drive off, leaving the man in black who's hiding behind a barrel. Now,
Yes.
what did you make of that scene?
See, I just thought he was hiding, and they didn't really know about what they were doing. Shooting at that guest. So, and you were saying how's their boss, but
Yeah,
I feel like they probably didn't know it was even as they got up to him. They would have need to have some conversation there, which he didn't want.
Because there's two issues I have with it. One is the motivation of the man in black to hide. The most obvious being, hey, I'm still on my game. I don't want to get taken out of the park. Go away. Okay, maybe.
Yeah,
but he is shot multiple times, and you would think that dude would die without medical attention. But okay.
Right.
That aside. So the other point is, didn't they see him because Lawrence is standing over him, about to finish him off when he gets shot full of bullets. So they had to have come up and seen, that guy's about to shoot someone. Shoot the host first. Where did that guy go? You would think that would be the natural question of, where did the guy on the ground go? But they don't. I don't know. It was just a little weird. In other words, what point was it to hide?
Yeah.
Since you were right there and they probably saw you anyway. But.
Right. I mean, as I was telling you, I think it's possible that he was concerned they would stop him in his mission, which we think he wants to destroy the information so that nobody else.
He says it's my biggest mistake, right?
Right.
He wants to correct. He talks about burning it all down.
Yeah.
So he's we also have this. He's still on this game with the door, which we'll talk about here. But because the door comes up in this episode or a version of it, so that what that means, we're still not exactly sure.
Yeah.
But so he still wants to participate in the game. But you would think if you're like a Delos employee and your boss of bosses is lying shot on the ground, you might be like, "Oh, let's get him to help."
Yeah.
But they didn't. So the door. Okay, so there's this conversation that Ford has with Bernard where Ford basically echoes the same conversation that Dolores had with Teddy.
Yes.
Where Dolores was like, "You're so nice. You are just a nice guy, and you'll never survive in the war to come." Boosting your stats. Ford does the same thing with Bernard. Hey, you know what? You're too nice. You're never going to survive unless I take over. So your free will, it's on hold for a while I make choices for you. And of course, eventually at the end, there's that shot of him. It's like the dual cut of Ford and Bernard just gunning down the security team. But in that statement, there's an interesting bit. It's almost like a little throwaway moment where Ford's like, "Hey, you're too good for this world. You would never survive. They would crush you unless we open the door." He just throws that in there in the middle. So, that's Ford was having a game about the door with William, and now he's talking about opening the door with Bernard. I have to feel they're connected in some way.
You have to feel that way.
I think there's maybe opening the door is as simple as letting the hosts get out into the real world and
maybe
hide amongst humans or something.
Maybe.
We do know, interestingly, so Bernard is not the typical human-host hybrid, the kind that we're thinking about with Delos, because obviously the James Delos version didn't work.
Yeah.
And so the simulated version, or the where they kept testing him in simulations, supposedly the Arnold that they've got was created after Arnold was killed.
Right.
So they had to use just memories of him from Ford and memories of him from Dolores.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that works.
Me neither.
But
Me neither.
It just seems like they took a storybook and they stuck it in a head. like, what? Okay.
You master.
Did you know everything about the guy? No? So it's a weird amalgam, but he's a new type of life form.
Yeah.
He's memories of a human in a robot.
Did you think they... I don't know.
Well, it's interesting. So what does that mean? So if the idea is they haven't perfected the tech yet to have a human come into the park
right.
and get immortal and leave as a
Right.
If you said, "Oh, but we can take memories of you," but I don't think that would sell as well.
No, I think you're right. I think they have as I was telling you before, that to me this reminds me of the whole procedure of freezing people's brains in order to think like, oh, okay, well, in the future we'll understand
we cure your disease or something.
We can cure disease and also cure having your brain frozen, because
Right.
that
Then we'll
screws
bring
up
you
your
back.
brain too. At least presumably the thawing out of your brain.
Yeah, there's some logistics that are interesting. So the idea of people coming to the park. Obviously, this thing was a big secret. Nobody knew about it. I mean, the staff mostly didn't know about it.
Right.
So they kept this thing on ice, so to speak. But so I'm a rich guy and I want to go to Westworld.
Right.
Hey, this looks cool. I'll do a weekend at Westworld.
Sure.
I put my money down, my $40,000 or whatever. I go hang out as a cowboy for a weekend. I assume that's not enough time for them to go, we can now make you immortal because we saw you run around drinking and shooting for 2 days.
Right.
So it's got to be a very select group of people that they can even view long enough to get that information. So do they then come to me? Let's say they're like, oh, that Matt would make a good candidate for our program.
I would think.
Hey, Matt, do you want to spend a lot more money?
Yeah.
And show up more often?
Now, we'll make you immortal.
Yeah.
So that's your,
But now we haven't perfected it yet. But just so you know, it's possible we could make you immortal if you just keep hanging out at the park. Oh, by the way, we're not watching you. So that's the other thing is how? You'd ask, what are you talking about?
Right.
Are you watching me while I'm in the park? No.
No, I feel like the only thing they have is creating a robot that can pass for a specific human.
Yeah.
Right. So this taking information, I mean, maybe it's what you take so that people will feel like, oh, they're really trying to do it anyway, and in a couple of months or maybe a year, they'll have it figured out, and then I can get my new body.
I guess it's weird, yeah, because what they're offering is like you'll die just like anybody.
I think it's
but
possible.
then later you'll have another.
It sounds like
memory
though what
of you.
you're saying is that perhaps these people aren't involved in that prospect. Maybe the real financial thing is what a lot of people discovered before they talked about before they started talking about this whole immortality thing, which is basically use these information on these people, these rich people who are probably powerful too, to either create a replacement, and then utilize, live in that person, make the money or whatever. So it'd really be used to replace people.
I got you. As opposed to pay us a bunch of money and we'll make you immortal.
Yeah.
Because you're right. It's probably more. I just don't see how they could have kept it secret. How you would not let them know you're watching them. There's a whole lot of factors that we take as fact. True. That you're like, how would you keep that going and also let people in on this project?
Yeah.
So it's weird. I don't know the logistics of it.
Yeah. So maybe by the end of the season we'll know.
Yeah. What are some other things we learned? We had Maeve, we had Dolores, we had Abernathy. A lot of people died. Now, whether for all time, I don't know, but you had some pretty seemingly permanent deaths.
Right.
You had Clementine get mowed down.
Oh, well.
I mean, she didn't shoot her in the head, so maybe she's okay. But again, they blew up the backups, so you can't bring her back.
Right.
Obviously, a very permanent death seemed to be Angela. She blew herself up. Lawrence, maybe? He got shot. They left him? I don't know. Again, no backups. Abernathy, they took his head off.
Yep.
No backups.
No backups.
So, unless there's like a backup to the backup, which maybe there is.
There should be.
There's
That's good data,
There's like, and also Teddy just destroying the mustache dude.
Oh.
They're just like, let's have him be incredibly ultraviolet. So it's a mano a mano, and then he just keeps pummeling his face after he's dead.
Yeah.
Kind of like in Mr. Robot, the character like taking the axe to the guy long after he's dead.
Yeah, I hear you.
They just keep doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, Teddy is a psychopath at this point. And we do see in the trailer for next week, it looks like it's focusing on Akcheta, the leader of the Ghost Nation, who we also remember saw trying to entice Logan.
Actually, I didn't see the scenes from next week.
Oh, yeah. Like most of it's not the entire trailer, but most of the trailer is focusing on him. Like it seems like it's his backstory.
Okay.
He is witnessing, I guess he was there at the moment. He sees, I think, both both Arnold and Ford get shot. And so he's like standing in the town where Arnold's body is.
Interesting.
And then we see him like in the desert riding on a horse, and then we see like the makeup come on. So I feel like we're going to get how the host nation is different from everybody else
interesting.
In the next episode, perhaps. But that's what we got.
Yep.
William Blake was one of the poems, the Eternity in an Hour.
Yeah.
Poem that Ford was reciting. It is from Auguries of Innocence. It's basically about innocence versus corruption. It kind of gives examples of both. But it also has a lot of, like, the ending line is something about God appearing to those in the dark, appearing as the light, but then appearing only as a human being to those already in the daylight.
Makes sense.
Which kind of is like, Ford as a human being, but he's definitely got a God complex.
Right.
He also talked about the Library of Alexandria. Very important in this episode because it's kind of like the cradle, basically, right? So he's like, yeah, the Library of Alexandria burned down. It had all these thousands of years of stories, but they all became a new story, which was the burning of Alexandria. And so you could take that with the cradle. All of these host stories were destroyed with the cradle, but now that's kind of their new story, the kind of the phoenix from the flames kind of thing. Those are the main pieces. And then the classical music playing while they're mowing people down is Beethoven. It's Beethoven's Seventh Symphony, which probably goes back to Ford's talk about how the great composers, Mozart, Chopin, they didn't die, they just became music.
Yeah.
And so he is now music about destroying people in the park.
Yes.
Also, he makes Bernard take down all the safeguards in the park. Seems like he's like, if I take this down, Dolores will slaughter everyone. And he's like, do it. Boop. Okay.
Right.
It's offline now.
Right.
So the park is like, it seems like all the defenses are down.
Right.
Of course, that is a week before the events that we see later. So
yeah, because we still haven't seen Elsie, right? So
right, and then it's before the part where they discover that Bernard is a robot.
Right.
Charlotte and him. Also, the way they tortured him, they waterboarded him. Like virtually. Yeah. They just like cut off his air. You see him like gasping for air. Like, oh man.
Yeah.
They're torturing the hosts. Anyway. So yeah, there were obviously more things to talk about. Please, if there's something that we missed, feel free to comment on it. If we're idiots, tell us we're idiots. That's fine.
Yes, we can take it.
We can take it, damn it.
Years of experience. That.
Years of idiocy. Next up is Legion. We're getting near the end of with the penultimate episode for the season. Yeah. So that's coming up. Westworld will be coming back. I'll probably do another episode about maybe a book series that could be, if I were choosing like the next Game of Thrones to choose, I would choose this particular one. I'll do a little story on, or a little episode on.
What is it?
Should I let the cat out of the bag on that one?
Oh,
all right.
No,
I will
afterwards.
That's fine. Oh, yeah. Okay. So yes, I'll do that too. So anyway, thanks everybody. Bye now.